Lies over time always fall apart.
No, that's not true. Not necessarily. Lies over time always fall apart. It's an interesting platitude, but I don't think that's necessarily true. If it's a big enough lie that's believed by enough people, it can propagate for like ever, honestly. Now, there will always be people around to debunk lies and correct misinformation and things like that, but people like Jack Hibbs don't listen to, the debunkers or the misinformation correctors. So, I mean, just think about this. Let me think of a really, really good myth that there are a bunch of myths that have, hang on. Here's a lie that's pervasive, that continues on, and will not go away, no matter what. The same lie that pretty much everybody has heard their entire childhood and into adulthood. And hell, you're probably telling your kids this lie now, too. Chewing gum stays in your stomach for 5 to 7 years if you swallow it. No, it doesn't. It's processed out just like everything else you eat. Chewing gum does not stay in your stomach. It's melted by stomach acid and passes through your intestines and blah, blah, blah. That is a lie that's been around since I was little. And, it's still being passed around to this day. This is Jack Hibbs. Now, if you're unfamiliar, he is a televangelist. He runs a megachurch. It's got like 10, 15,000 people that show up every Sunday. It's crazy how gigantic this megachurch is. Well, anyways, I just wanted to give you a little taste of some of the stuff that this guy talks about at his church. Check this out.
Let me tell you something. The Democrat Party is a death cult. Every single Democrat voted to kill babies up in Sacramento last week out of the womb. Kill them. Kill them, they said. Kill them.
Yeah, so that obviously completely unglued from reality. Nobody said kill them, kill them. Nobody voted to kill babies. Like, this is just not an accurate representation of reality at all, obviously. But he wants his congregation to believe that it is, so he's going to repeat it. So anyways, this guy, God, it's so ridiculous, it's funny. Like, you've got to laugh at this sometimes. Anyway. This guy did an interview with this dude on the left named Gene Bailey. Look at Gene Bailey's hair. It looks like one solid mat. So weird. Anyway, this TV show, Flashpoint is what it's called. It's owned and operated by Kenneth Copeland on his Victory Network. Gene Bailey hosts it, and it is all about Donald Trump and how great Trump is and how much they love Trump and blah, 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 blah. It's all about Trump, really. Any position that Trump holds, these people will espouse every time. And they got Jack Hibbs on to, espouse his position. So I wanted to listen to what he had to say in this interview with Flashpoint. This is not part one. If you haven't seen part one, don't sweat it. This ends independently of the rest. I'll provide context if it's missing. We're only like 6 minutes in or something anyways. I spent the first half of part one kind of talking about Jack Hibbs and giving a little bit of background on him, so you haven't missed too much. Let's listen to this interview with Jack Hibbs and see what he had to say, shall we? And while we do, we are going to play some Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild 2, actually. I'm just running around grinding. I've already beaten this game 6 ways to Sunday. I will not give you any spoilers, so you don't have to worry about spoilers. And before we actually get into it, let me read my messages here. Lesbian official, the Ukrainian government released a video about how many religious are welcome in their nation. JWs were brought up as one of them and compared to their oppression in Russia. Thoughts on that? Interesting. I think it's a propaganda campaign run by Ukraine, and it's a good one. It's a good idea. Do it, yes. Invite Jehovah's Witnesses to leave Russia and come to Ukraine. That's a good idea. Religious freedom is good. People's ability to practice their religion freely is a good thing. Even if I disagree with that religion, even if I think it's a stupid idea, people should still be allowed to practice their religion freely. As long as it's not violating other people's rights. At which point, the people who are ordering the members to violate people's rights should be punished for it. So if the governing body is ordering people to shun, they should be punished. The people should be allowed to continue doing their thing. But the head should be taken out if that's, put him in jail if that's what needs to be done. Anyway, thank you for the message. It's interesting. I may end up covering that later. Agamotto says, as far as organized religion goes, cut off the head and 2 more grow back. You're right that if we took out, you're right in that's how a hydra works, but as far as religious institutions go, I don't think that's how religious institutions work. If you take the governing body and tell them, if you continue to order your people to shun their family members, then we're going to put you in jail, and then you put them in jail for ordering people to shun their family members, I think it'd be a slightly different situation. The next guys in line would be a little hesitant to follow suit. That's just me. That's my guess. I guess I don't know of anybody who's tried it yet, but anyway, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. That's just kind of an off-the-cuff idea that I had. I have not thought that through thoroughly. There could be holes all through it. It may not be a good idea at all.
A religious exemption form for anyone. They didn't have to attend our church. We actually had those PDF forms. They were produced by one of our law firms.
If you didn't see the last one, let me give a little bit of context here. Jack Hibbs is talking about when the pandemic was happening, he decided to get as many people killed as humanly possible by holding church service, despite in person, not spacing the chairs out, inside. He wanted to do it inside and make it as dangerous as humanly possible, as likely to kill as many people as humanly possible, because that's just the kind of guy he is. And on top of that, on top of his interest in getting thousands of people killed at his megachurch, he also decided to give people medical exemption forms so that they didn't have to get vaccinated, make it even worse for everybody. Genius.
And they were sent out nationally, from military personnel to school teachers to construction workers, that I am exercising my constitutional right. By having a religious exemption regarding the vaccine if they chose to do that.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. There is no religious reason to not take the vaccine. The Bible doesn't say a word about vaccines. You know what the Bible does talk about, though, a lot? The Bible has a lot to say about caring about your fellow man, protecting people, preventing plague. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there about preventing the spread of illness. You remember any of that? That ringing a bell at all? No, he's just going to pass out his Religious Exemption Act instead, or his Religious Exemption papers instead. Yeah, genius.
That. And we believe that as a church, we should equip people. I'm a big fan. I don't believe that church is just on Sunday. I think if you're really a follower of Christ, it's every day of the week. And
I get that this is like a virtue signaling thing that he's doing here. Like, you should be going to church more. But I can't see what point he's trying to get at.
Look, I'm a full-time pastor. I don't show up on Monday morning to Raytheon or DuPont. I don't show up at Disneyland. A lot of our employees work at Disneyland. Monday's my day off. They're stepping into the lion's den, but it's my job on...
Wait, Monday is his day off? That's interesting. I don't think I really have a day off. I think I do something every single day. Let's see. Monday, I clean up and prep the podcast to be edited. Sunday, I do the podcast. So Monday, I prep and clean it to be edited. Tuesday, I stream. I prep. I figure out what I'm going to be talking about, and then I do the stream, actually do it. on Tuesday night. Takes me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to actually get into podcast mode and prep and do it and all that. Wednesday, I hang out with you fellas, you fine gentlemen and ladies. You fine guys, gals, and non-binary pals. Hang out with you guys. That's Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday, after the stream, I should be prepping for the following week's stream. So I should be getting ready or finding stories for Sunday's stream that I'll be doing on my Fireside channel for the podcast. I should be finding the stories. That's all I got to do on Thursday, just find the stories. That takes me about 2 hours. Friday, I name the clips, download the clips, separate them out into exactly which ones I'm going to cover and talk about, separate them into their own distinct stories, and prep it all and create compilations and so on and so forth. That's on Friday. Sometimes I get a Saturday off. Sometimes I split my Friday between Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday it's back to the grind. I stream for 4.5 hours a lot of the time on Sunday. You guys only see a couple of hours of it a lot of the time, but I'm on Discord ahead of time talking to people and stuff, and then setting up my green screen, setting up my lights, and making sure all my software is running properly and everything. That takes time, you know. Oh, not to mention, when I do have time, when I'm not actually working, when I'm done working, when there's, I've finished. There's no more work to do. I start editing. I edit the Unfiltered channel, and I edit my podcast. And as a matter of fact, after this, today, I have another video I have to edit for the podcast, for last week's. So I edited... Last night, I finished about 11 o'clock at night. I edited the voicemail compilation with Alpha Force Zero. Matters. I mean, it's only like an hour of time. Yeah, I did the edit for this last night. 11 p.m. I finished. And then my wife and I went to bed. I still have to edit the America First one. I haven't even touched this yet. It's 35 minutes long. I know it's going to take me about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to do. And I have another person that helps me. She's probably going to do number 2, which is Lindell, and number 1, which is Baker. And Baker is going to go on my main channel. After she edits those, I'm going to export the audio and stick it into this, which is like the podcast thing. I'm going to upload this to SoundCloud, do metadata, have to insert, I have to give them titles, I have to give them descriptions, tags, the whole 9 yards. It's a big thing. So when I'm not specifically doing one of those things, I'm editing or doing metadata. It's a lot of work. I probably put 60 hours of work in every week, but I do it from home. I don't have to, there's no commuting involved, I just sit here, and some of it is just me playing a video game with you guys, which I don't mind at all, obviously, so. I love my job, honestly, to death. I cannot complain. It's just a lot of work, that's all. So this guy takes Mondays off, apparently. Sorry, I got off on a little tangent there. Let's continue listening. Point is, I work my nuts off, but I love it.
Monday's my day off. They're stepping into the lion's den. But it's my job on Sundays and Wednesdays to equip them to cope with this dark world that's out there. And only the truth can prepare them to do that. So
is Wednesdays when his church services? Is that what he's saying? He holds service on Wednesdays?
Only the truth can prepare them to do that. So we're 100% committed to that. God honored that. He protected us. He provided for us. So much so that members of the mayor herself, the mayor's office, city council, the county board of supervisors, police chief, many law enforcement officers, some of them quite renowned, started attending our church because we were open. And some of them...
God, that's disturbing, right? Did you hear what he just said? He basically said, city council members, and who else did he say attends his church?
Came as, well, let's see what this bozo's church. Many law enforcement officers, some of them quite renowned, started attending our church because we were open. And some of them came.
Many law enforcement officers, some of them renowned. Like, what? Dude, that is so many levels of disturbing. I don't even know where to start with it. Seriously. Law enforcement officers, you say?
As, well, let's see what this bozo's doing. But
many of them came as, let's see what this bozo's doing. Right. Totally. That checks out. They were just coming to see what this bozo was doing. Absolutely. That checks out. They were just coming to make fun of you, and then they became Christians, right?
Many of them wound up actually sticking, and I'm not going to mention his name, but one is a nationally known sheriff, and he wound up giving his life to Christ.
Joe Arpaio. It's Joe Arpaio, isn't it? You guys may not remember Joe Arpaio. That guy famously, didn't he commit war crimes or some shit, and he got pardoned by Trump? I don't remember what he did. Let me just look it up. Hold on. Let's find out. I mean, I don't know if it's Joe Arpaio or not, but it's an opportunity to talk about him, right? Okay, this is a really long Wikipedia page. I just want the bottom line here. What was it that he did exactly? In November 2010, Arpaio created an armed illegal immigration operations posse to help his deputies enforce immigration law. Members of the posse included actors Steven Seagal, Lou Ferrigno, and Peter Lupus. Really? Because the MCSO lost its authority to enforce immigration law, both by losing its 287G authority and through a federal court in Melendres v. Arpaio as of 2013, the posse is no longer active. Oh my God, it's terrible. Well, let me just give you a bottom line to it. I don't remember exactly what it was, but this guy did something really fucking horrific. I don't remember what it was. He did something that was super illegal and terrible, and it was basically tantamount to war crimes, how he treated some of the people that he was tasked to protect. Something to that effect. I just don't remember what it was. And he rightly went to federal prison for this because it was terrible. It was disgusting what he did to some of these people. Horrific stuff. Honestly, deserved to be in prison, okay? And then he was pardoned by Donald Trump, of course. So, yeah, that's Joe Arpaio. And, you know, since Trump pardoned him, now he has an absolutely stellar reputation among the MAGA nutcases. Who could have guessed? So who actually knows who Jack Hibbs is talking about here? I have no clue if he's talking about Joe Arpaio. It would not surprise me in the least bit. He was a sheriff in Arizona, and he was an awful human. Yep. To my knowledge, like I said, if the things that he did, he had done in a war to like an enemy combatant, he would be tried under Nuremberg laws for war crimes. And he would probably be executed for some of the shit that he did to people that were under his employ. He enslaved people and all kinds of messed up shit. I don't even remember now. Hope you have time with family. Oh, yeah, I do have time with family. Totally. The time I have with family is the time that I spend talking to you guys while my wife sits right back there, doing her thing on her computer. The time I have with family is when I'm streaming and my kid is sitting at the little breakfast bar thing eating dinner or lunch or breakfast or whatever. No, I'm kidding. I do hang out with family, so I try to. Anyway. Crimes against humanity. Yeah. I feel like crimes against humanity as a phrase is probably thrown around a little bit more often than it should be, right? Like, crimes against humanity are used as an accusation against certain people when they don't like what that person has done or whatever else. But Joe Arpaio, to my knowledge, legitimately committed crimes against humanity and went to federal prison for it, I believe. And was then pardoned by Donald Trump. So... he was arrested for disobeying a federal judge. Okay, I didn't remember. here's the thing about Joe Arpaio. I don't even know if that's who we're talking about with Jack Hibbs, but it's a good opportunity to mention him anyways. Joe Arpaio just hates Mexicans, okay? That's really what it's about. He just hates Mexicans and will do whatever it takes to hurt them physically, mentally, and emotionally, to scar them, to really their heads up. He'll do whatever he can to really up the heads of any Mexican that comes his way, that crosses his path. That's what Joe Arpaio's really about. That's my impression of it anyways. And people were so disgusted with his behavior that they put him in jail. And then Trump said, no, you're not putting him in jail. I'm pardoning him. He was terrible. Okay, somebody says, yeah, you're skewing the way he got arrested or why he got arrested is still terrible, but you have to say the right reasons, not war crimes. Well, I'm not saying he was arrested for war crimes. You don't get arrested for war crimes in the U.S. It doesn't work that way. I'm saying he committed what would be tantamount to war crimes. If somebody has specific information on it, please let me know. I looked, but I couldn't find anything quick and easy. Anyway, all right, let's keep listening. I wouldn't be surprised at all to find that it was Joe Arpaio that this guy really, really liked and was proud to have at his church. Because that's the kind of guy that Joe Arpaio and Jack Hibbs are. Those are the types of guys they are.
But many of them wound up actually sticking. And I'm not going to mention his name, but one is a nationally known sheriff.
That's what makes me think it was Arpaio. Who knows? And
he wound up giving his life to Christ during that time of testing.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's so cool. All right, so...
That is not cool. That is about as disturbing as it gets, actually.
Let's talk about something that pastors are now facing that just a few years ago they didn't have to face. That's what do I do with this transgender issue? And they're coming to my church. How do I respond to that as a pastor?
Yeah.
Okay, give me a second. I'm sorry. Ghost Odin. I don't normally if somebody is being combative with me or whatever in the chat, I just ignore it. It's like, whatever. You are consistently taking the things that I say in bad faith and misunderstanding me, seemingly intentionally. I don't know. You will be, as of this moment, the first person I believe that I have ever blocked on Twitch. I don't want you blocked. I want you banned. Wait, how do I ban Ghost Odin? Hold on, give me a second. Restrict? Is that it? Yeah, I just think you're bad faith. I've already answered all of your questions and already... it seems like some mod. Can somebody deal with Ghost Odin? I don't know how to do it myself. You're the first person that I'm going to personally ban. You're just, it's almost like you're intentionally taking the things that I'm saying in bad faith. I said I'm not exactly sure 100% for sure. I said I think that this is how it is. Does anybody in the chat have any extra information? And you insist on taking everything I say in bad faith. So, goodbye, good sir. Anyway, let's keep listening to Hibbs.
Yeah, transgenderism, just like adultery, just like a bad thought, just like pride, just like anything else, number one, is a sin. It needs to be repented of. But here's the good news. The way that you present that is that you announce to people, parents and kids alike, how do you know that your thought process is right on this? 5 years ago, you'd never heard about this.
Right.
So how do you know you're on the right track?
Sure.
The greatest exposure of truth.
Wait, did he just say 5 years ago you didn't know about this? Hang on, let me step back, listen to this one more time so I can kind of process what he's saying here.
How do you know that your thought process is right on this? 5 years ago, you'd never heard about this.
Right.
And this isn't tripping any flags for you that 5 years ago you hadn't heard about any of this trans stuff? This isn't tripping any notes to make you realize oh, wait a minute, maybe this is just a made up bullshit culture war issue that didn't cross your mind for a second? You didn't think about that? Really? This is, like, sad. It is so sad. These people are lost, seemingly, you know? They just cannot connect the dots.
Right. So how do you know you're on the right track? Sure. The greatest exposure of truth is time. Lies over time always fall apart.
No, that's not true. Not necessarily. Lies over time always fall apart. It's an interesting platitude, but I don't think that's necessarily true. If it's a big enough lie that's believed by enough people, it can propagate for, like, ever, honestly. Now, there will always be people around to debunk lies and correct misinformation and things like that, but people like Jack Hibbs don't listen to, the debunkers or the misinformation correctors. So, I mean, just think about this. Let me think of a really, really good myth that there are a bunch of myths that have. Hang on. Here's a lie that's pervasive, that continues on, and will not go away, no matter what. The same lie that pretty much everybody has heard their entire childhood and into adulthood. And hell, you're probably telling your kids this lie now, too. Chewing gum stays in your stomach for 5 to 7 years if you swallow it. No, it doesn't. It's processed out just like everything else you eat. Chewing gum does not stay in your stomach. It's melted by stomach acid and passes through your intestines and blah, blah, blah. That is a lie that's been around since I was little. And, it's still being passed around to this day. Wait an hour after eating before going swimming to prevent cramping. That has nothing to do with anything. You don't have to wait an hour after eating. What are you talking about? That's a myth that everybody believes that is false. That's been false since day one. Who made that up? Who came up with it? Why do people keep spreading this? It's fake. Don't believe this stuff. I remember being told that in school in the 70s. Well, there you go. I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but yeah, this has been passed around since the dawn of time, honestly. We only use 10% of our brain. No, we don't. We use all of our brain at different times, in different ways, for different things. 10%? Why would we only use 10% of our brain? What possible purpose would it serve for evolution to create 10% or 90% of a brain that is not used? What purpose would there be for that to happen? Seriously, think about this for a second. It's ridiculous. It's false nonsense. Dude, okay. I think that I've tossed this. Oh my God, dude. I've tossed this thing around so many times that it's just like it's in pieces now. All right. I really wanted. Okay, forget it. I'm just going to go up there and build another one. Whatever. Ooh, there's a little hidey hole here. I haven't seen this. What's all this then? There's a little hole here and a little open crevice, and there's nothing in here? There's nothing? Really? There isn't even a little Korok thing I can jump through? Wow, that's disappointing. Oh, hello there. Little enemy. Okay. Ooh, there's a chest on the other side. Interesting. Okay. So there is something here. If I go into the hidey hole and I jump up at the right spot. And there's a Korok here too. Okay. I'll come back for you. Oh yeah, here are a couple of other things. Sitting too close to the TV will make you go blind. No. Sitting too close to the TV, or any screen, actually, has absolutely no effect on your eyes. None. Now, yes, it's a fact that eyesight has been getting worse over the past 50 years or so. And it's entirely too quick to be accounted for through evolution. So scientists aren't really exactly sure why eyesight is getting worse, over the course of 50 years or so. But it's not TV screens. It's not phone screens. It's not screens in general. That's just false. There's another little fun fact, a lie that continues on and will continue on indefinitely, probably, because people like Jack Hibbs will believe the lie and spread it. And here's one more. Shaved hair grows back thicker and darker. No, it doesn't actually. When you shave hair, it creates, it kind of cuts it into a nub, where before it was a long, thin piece, right? So it may appear darker, but it does not grow back thicker and darker. That's not how it works at all. That's just, once again, a made-up, fabricated, what do you call it? A made-up fact. It's a lie that persists in society. Despite the fact that it's a lie, it persists. So, just give some examples of those lies that Jack Hibbs doesn't seem to know about, apparently. Autistic Wolf says, every time I've ever gone swimming immediately after eating, vicious stomach cramps. Most people I ask corroborate this. Dangerous to swim before 30-minute wait. Incorrect, as it turns out. You are giving us anecdotal evidence. And anecdotal evidence is not valuable in these types of scenarios. What we need to do is we need to look at studies of as many people as we can possibly include. And in fact, we have. We've looked at these studies and determined that it is not harmful to go swimming immediately after eating. It's simply not. It's perfectly safe to eat and then swim, according to studies. So, anyways, yeah, thank you for the super chat. That is my understanding of it. Just look at the studies. I am willing to be corrected if I'm incorrect on something, but to my knowledge, according to studies, it's perfectly safe to eat and then go swimming. Sitting too close to a TV or even reading won't blind you, but it will make your vision worse later in life. Me and my best friend can vouch. Sucks. I don't believe so. I don't think that that's true. I think that's a myth. I think you should look up the studies on that. See if you can find solid information on it. Because I believe that's just false. Let me know what you find out.
The greatest exposure of truth is time. Lies over time always fall apart.
Not true. Like, not true at all. In fact, that's the exact opposite of true.
If you cannot have your ears pierced without parental consent, then how is it that you think that you can go have this done to you at the suggestion of a teacher or at the...
Okay, so let me tell you what he's talking about. He's talking about trans issues now. I know that, like, we just took a 180 all of a sudden, and people are probably lost because what he said made absolutely no sense whatsoever. Because he just jumped from subject to subject there, but can't blame him. I do it too. But I have to tell you, nobody in the United States, literally zero people, zero, since the founding of the country, zero have had bottom surgery under 18 years old. It's illegal, and it's been illegal for 300 years and continues to be illegal. You don't get bottom surgery at the suggestion of a teacher or whatever other thing you're talking about right now. Now, top surgeries are allowed to be done on 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds with parental consent, to my knowledge. It kind of depends on the state. But you have to spend years and years showing a doctor that you really are trans and that it's not like something that, you know, it's not a passing phase. It's not a fad with you or something like that. Like, this is real for you. You have to convince a doctor that this is real for you before anybody will clear anything like that. So what he's saying here is a complete bastardization of the real situation. But okay. You just kind of jumped in out of nowhere with that. Go on.
You cannot have your ears pierced without parental consent. Then how is it that you think that you can go have this done to you at the suggestion of a teacher?
That's my question to Jack Hibbs. How is it that you think that people can just go have this done at the suggestion of a teacher? What? Are you really that gullible to think that? That was never the case. That was never the problem. That's completely made up. But apparently he believes it.
Or at the grooming of others. So what we, in fact, Dr. Frank Turek and I just did a message on.
Oh my God, not Frank Turek. He is the worst, dude. He's a... Oh, if you don't know Frank Turek, I've never covered him before. He is a televangelist, apologist, like a Christian apologist nutcase. We'll get into him more if need be.
On this, where it was very well received, where we're asking you to slow down, read the Bible for 30 days, stop taking injections, cancel that appointment, and let the Bible speak to you for 30 days and find out that you have actually been created in the image of God. God loves you. He doesn't make any mistakes. And then here's the point.
God doesn't make any mistakes, huh? Fascinating. It's super interesting that he says that. God doesn't make any mistakes. Well, God unequivocally and without a shadow of a doubt, if you believe in this kind of thing, God most definitely created trans people. Trans people have existed for the beginning of time, honestly. Thousands and thousands of years. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe. So either God made a mistake or he's okay with trans people. It's one or the other. But they cannot deal with that. They can't handle it. They can't process the idea that God either makes mistakes or he's okay with trans people. This is a message from Agamotto. Man was not made in the image of God. God was made in the image of man. Yes, absolutely. That's a good point. God makes babies with no brains on purpose. Yeah, that's a good point. A really good point, actually. Thank you for that. There are actually a lot more examples of this than you would expect. There are many, many, many cases where women become pregnant and they go through the pregnancy and they get to the point where, it's possible to see the baby on an ultrasound. And they do the ultrasound, say 6 months in, right? Pretty far along. You got a big belly. You've probably got a name picked out. You know the gender by this point, almost certainly. By 20 weeks, you'll probably know the gender. And that's, wait, how many months is that? Yeah, but 6 months. Yeah, you'll know the gender. So you go in for an ultrasound, 6 months, and lo and behold, you discover this baby has no brain. The body is forming without a brain inside of it. Seriously. That's not a mistake? God didn't make a mistake there? That's what God wanted, is what you're telling me? That's exactly how things should have played out? Now you have to mourn a baby that you probably named, that you probably have the gender for, like you know what the gender is and everything, and now you find out that this baby is not viable. It will not survive. It will die the moment that it is disconnected from the mother. Without question, that's going to happen because it doesn't have a brain. Not only is it not going to be able to think, but without a brain, it's not going to be able to breathe on its own because your brain has parts in it that, force your body to breathe, that make your heart beat, stuff like that. Without a brain, the baby is just going to die when it disconnects from the mom. That's apparently not a mistake in God's eyes. That's apparently not a mistake that God made in this guy's eyes. God doesn't make mistakes, right, Jack? Is that right? And Agamotto made another good point. If God makes no mistakes, what does he have to say about intersex people? Yeah, I don't know if this is true. I'm going to have to look this up. In fact, I want you guys to look this up before believing it, so do not repeat it without looking this up, okay? Because I'm not sure it's true. To my understanding, I believe there are more intersex people in the world than there are trans people in the world. Now, those numbers are probably, like, they appear to be very skewed and very different from what they are because of the culture in the United States, basically. The culture that was created by people like Jack Hibbs. But to my knowledge, I believe there are more intersex people in the world than there are trans people. Again, look that up for me. What does he have to say about intersex people? In all seriousness, that makes no sense at all. God doesn't make mistakes? What? Mistakes happen all the time. Whether you attribute those mistakes to God or not, I don't care. Mistakes are, like, nonstop in human beings. For the record, I don't want anybody to get the wrong impression. When I say mistake here, what I'm talking about is genetic mistakes. You know, the same type of mistake that caused blue eyes. But do we view blue eyes as a mistake? Not really. When we use the word mistake in terms of genes or human beings or the way that we develop, it's not in the same way that Jack Hibbs is using the word mistake. So to clarify, when I say mistake, what I mean is abnormality outside of the expected parameters. When Jack Hibbs says it, he means messed up or wrong. I just wanted to clarify. I don't want anybody to think that I'm calling them a mistake.
Do you really want to transition? If you really want to transition, we've got the right message for you. Jesus Christ announces to us that he will give you the eternal, never needing to change back to transition that will save your life for now and forever. And believe it or not, when people hear that level of truth, they may immediately in the moment say, what is this? What am I hearing? But when they think about it, they begin to actually ask more questions. So you want to lovingly but accurately, with a winsome spirit, tell them the truth. Right. I think we're doing people a great disservice and a great injury when we pat people on the back and say, well, I love you, do whatever you want.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, you should tell people I love you no matter what. You should tell people I love you no matter what. That's what Jesus said. I will love you no matter what. And your battle with whatever is between you and God, not my business. That's what the Bible said. I don't think Jesus specifically said, don't judge lest ye be judged. I believe that was Paul later in one of the other scriptures. Anyway, the point is, God apparently, according to the Bible, has always been in favor of people doing what they want and letting that issue be between them and God, period. Now, aside from the fact that people's relationship should be between them and God, not you and God, not anybody else and God, should be between them and God. Aside from that, we also live under a system of governance where people can do whatever they want because it's a free country and it's none of your goddamn fucking business. Because we can do whatever we want, period. We can do whatever we want because we can do whatever we want. That's the bottom line. But that's really the issue with people like Jack Hibbs and David Barton and who else? I mean, just any televangelist you can think of. Kenneth Copeland, Kent Hovind, all of them are like this. They don't want you doing whatever you want. They want you doing what they want. That's the problem here.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, because I love you, I'm not going to encourage you to do whatever you want.
Sure.
Well, you don't have to encourage me to do anything. You have to let me do it, though. And I'm asking as a family member that you love me unconditionally. That's all. But he can't even do that. He cannot even love his family members unconditionally. There's a condition to it. For the record, that's part of destructive influence. The fact that there's a condition to the love. You know what I told Alpha Force Zero recently, my kid? You know what I said to her? I said, I will love you no matter what. And I mean no matter what. You know why? Because I didn't get that. I was not loved no matter what. I was loved under the condition I remained a Jehovah's Witness. under the condition. I did not do this. I did not do that. I didn't get a worldly girlfriend. I didn't drink alcohol. I didn't smoke a joint or whatever other thing. If I did any of those things, the love was withdrawn permanently and for the rest of my life. That's the rule. So I said to her, literally, no matter what, I will love you. It does not matter what you do in this life. You could stab somebody in the chest, and I will be at that jail putting commissary on your books every week. Because I was not loved unconditionally. And I know what that feels like. I will love you unconditionally. That's how it should be, in my opinion. You should love somebody. If you're going to love somebody, you should love them unconditionally, period. There should not be any reason you have to not love them. There shouldn't be a reason to give up on them. If there's a reason to love them, there shouldn't be a good excuse to give up on them like that. And I meant it, too, when I said that to Alpha Force Zero. I don't care what they do, I will love them unconditionally. Period. Jack Hibbs here is describing conditional love. This is the kind of thing that I find in cults all the time. Conditional love. The dude doesn't seem to understand what it's like to just love and appreciate somebody for who they are and not have to worry about whether or not they're doing this right or that wrong or this or that or whatever. He doesn't understand what it's like to just appreciate your loved one. Simple as that. It's honestly sad that he doesn't know what unconditional love feels like, and he doesn't know how to give it either.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Well, because I love you, I'm not going to encourage you to do whatever you want.
Sure. That's good. All right.
Wow, what an interesting little what's the word I'm looking for here? What an interesting little mental gymnastic that this dude went through to not love somebody when they break one of these stupid fucked up rules that he has. Isn't that an interesting little justification that he's come up with for not loving a family member when they do something he doesn't like? Just disgusting, man. Honestly. Yeah, I was very fortunate. I was loved unconditionally by my parents. They didn't always like me, but I knew they loved me. Yep, I will love Alpha Force Zero no matter what. I may be horrified by the things that I doubt it. Alpha Force Zero is not going to grow up to be an axe murderer. But if she did, I would love her unconditionally. Period. I don't care. If she grew up to be an axe murderer, I would certainly do the right thing. I would certainly, the right thing, I believe, in that situation is to make sure that the family member who was victimized by like the axe murderer was made whole or got justice or whatever. I'd make sure that the family members got justice. Not saying that I would help them hide a body or anything, but I would love them no matter what. I would be there. I would put money on their commissary every single day, no matter what, because that's the kind of love that I never got. Thanks to Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's a love that Jack Hibbs here does not understand and will never understand. Doesn't get it, never will. It's honestly sad.
So I know we're running out of time. Yeah, but I want to ask, we work with Rick Green a lot.
Love him.
Biblical Civics.
My God, dude, Rick Green is insane.
And we have thousands of our viewers that have downloaded that, and you're in that.
Yeah.
So speak to Biblical Civics about why it's important for the church today. Well, and when I say the church, I mean believers.
Listen.
Why should we get involved in
How
that?
about this?
Okay, if you don't know, they're talking about Biblical Civics here. Let me just explain real quick, 15-second version. biblical. So Rick Green is on this program, this Flashpoint TV show, a lot. He runs a website, or co-runs this program, I guess you could call it, with this guy on the left here, Gene Bailey, right? And the program is called Biblical Civics, I believe. Now, here's how it works. Biblical Civics is what I guess you would call it, like a training course or something that teaches people incorrectly that the founding of the nation was built on Christianity, and it basically just teaches Christian nationalism, pretty much. And it's absolutely insane. I should go through this stuff. That'd be fascinating, right? Hard copies included with gifts of $60 or more. Is there video with it? Featuring Kirk Cameron, George Barna. I don't know George Barna. David Barton, he's a nutcase. Rick Green, he's the guy that started it. Is there video with this? Oh, if there's video, I should go through all this stuff. That'd be fascinating, right? I'll see if I can figure out the Patriot Academy stuff later, and I'll see what I can do. Maybe tomorrow we'll hit the biblical citizenship stuff. We'll see.
How about not only the church, not only the believers, but caring citizens? Because what Rick Green does is so excellent. Remember this, and he points it out clearly.
Oh, yeah, I was telling you, Rick Green started the biblical citizenship training stuff. And like I said, it's basically Christian nationalist garbage that's like rewriting history to be something completely different than what it actually is. And Lauren Boebert has even famously referenced the biblical citizenship garbage. I posted this clip of Boebert to the twit, and it went viral on there. Like, millions of views.
Maybe we need to have some sort of legislation that requires Constitution alive and biblical citizenship training in our schools, and that's how we get things turned around.
I posted that on there, and it went viral. It also went viral on YouTube, but viral on YouTube is a little different than viral on the twit. Anyway, she's talked about biblical citizenship too, and now I'm really tempted. 8 DVD set. How much material do they really have to give you? Like, oh my God, that is a lot of material. Do I even have the time to cover 8 DVDs? Holy shit. Anyway, let's keep listening here.
Our governing document is first not the U.S. Constitution, although it's epic.
Right.
Our governing document, our true birth certificate, was the Mayflower Compact.
It's true.
And if anybody wants to talk about, some years ago we heard a petition.
Okay, I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but he loves engaging in revisionist history and talking about Christian roots in America that don't really exist the way that they frame it up. So, yeah, don't trust a word out of his mouth. What Mayflower Compact? I don't know what that is, but whatever.
Particular president say that this nation was not founded on Christian principles. Wait a minute, the Mayflower Compact, before they got off the boat, they signed a 2-paragraph document saying that we've come to advance the gospel, and this is our governing body politic. And so pastors need to step.
Okay, now hang on. I need to figure out what the Mayflower Compact is. Okay, so let me explain like the chain of events that took place, all right? 1492, Columbus sails from, was it Spain? I believe it was Spain, to America because he's looking for a shorter destination to India because India had a bunch of spices that they grew there, and they wanted to, basically they had to pay part of, the amount in tribute that they spent on spices. They had to pay part of that toward the other countries they had to pass through to bring the spices through to where they lived, right? So he's looking for a shorter route to India, and they were very confident that the earth was round. Very confident. So confident, in fact, that they had tested it every which way to Sunday. You know how they tested to know if the earth was round? They took a pole, say a 20-foot tall pole. They stuck it in the ground in, I don't know, say Cairo, Egypt, right? and they went all the way, across the earth to the furthest location they possibly could. And they said, in 48 hours, we're going to measure the shadows of these two poles at the exact same moment together in 48 hours. And you're going to tell me what measurement you had, like what angle the shadow was at, and I'm going to find out what measurement my pole was at. And by doing so, we're going to find out what the curvature of the Earth is. They knew it was round by using that method alone, and they got pretty damn close by doing that too. So anyways, that was one of the many ways they knew that the Earth was round. So Columbus in 1492 weaseled the Spanish, I think, into paying for his trip to, around the world to try to find a shorter route to India because they knew it was round. And he ends up going and discovering, oh, check this out. There's a whole land here, and it's rich with resources. Now, those resources belong to other people who are currently here and living their lives and doing their thing, sure. But bear with me. Just let me cook for a second. What if they didn't belong to those people and they actually belong to us? See, that was the kind of the thinking process of Columbus. The war criminal Columbus. Probably, clarify what kind of a person he was. He was basically a war criminal. He was horrific and terrible. Anyway. So they found America in 1492. Well, Columbus sailed around in 1492, right? And I believe he ended up in Jamaica or something like that. 300 years later, okay? The founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson and John Hancock and all these other people, you know the ones. They all got together, signed the Declaration of Independence, told King George to go heck himself, created a new constitution, went through the Congress and the whole 9 yards. So 1776, they signed the Declaration of Independence, and I believe 1789, the Continental Congress officially ratified the new Constitution of the United States, and it was its own new country at that point, 1789. Now, what they're talking about here in all of this stuff, like what Jack Hibbs is saying here, basically, he's talking about the Mayflower Compact. When did the Mayflower arrive in the United States? The Mayflower landed on November 21st, 1620, apparently, according to today's Gregorian calendar. Although it could be argued different day, November 11th. It just depends on how you measure it. Anyway, 1620 is when the Mayflower landed. The United States split off from England in 1776 and created its own country 1789 officially. So you're talking 150 years later. 150 years later. A lot happened between the Mayflower Compact and the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And in my opinion, just this one humble man's opinion here, I would say that the Declaration of Independence and the signing of the Constitution in 1789 nullified any previous contracts that anybody had with anything. But okay, Jack Hibbs, go on, tell me more about the Mayflower Compact, whatever the hell that was. Mayflower Compact is a set of rules for self-governance established by the English settlers who traveled to the New World on the Mayflower. When pilgrims and other settlers set out on the ship for America in 1620, they intended to lay anchor in Northern Virginia, but after treacherous shoals and storms drove their ship off course, the settlers landed in Massachusetts instead, near Cape Cod, outside of Virginia's jurisdiction. So people already lived here. There were already settlements here long before the Mayflower landed, right? Knowing life without laws could prove catastrophic, colonist leaders created the Mayflower Compact to ensure a functioning social structure would prevail. Bad news for you, Jack Hibbs. The Mayflower Compact was done away with in 1789 with the signing of the new Constitution, but that's neither here nor there.
Up to where pastors used to be in this great nation. The epicenter of any village, any town, and any city, Boston, Philadelphia, Braintree, no matter where you're at.
Did he just list Braintree as a city? I have never heard of that as a city.
Was the pastor, was the church. That's why the East Coast, all those crazy roads lead to the center of where a church once stood. We need to get back to that. We had a first and second awakening. We need a third awakening. If there's any hope, and we will continue to do civics, and we will continue to do voter registration and promote.
No, I think we should continue to do physics instead. I think you were right the first time. If we did more physics and less biblical civics, the way that he's describing here, we'd be in much better shape as a country, as a people, as a nation. But you know this guy. You know these types of people. You know these evangelical extremist nutcases. They will do whatever it takes to convince the people around them that they're persecuted, so that they can scare the shit out of them and convince him to do whatever they want him to do.
We'll continue to do civics, and we will continue to do voter registration and promote the right candidates. But why do we do that? Because we know the answer is not in the White House. It's not in the State House. The answer comes from God's house.
Amen.
And then the State House is affected. Then the White House is affected.
Wow, so good. Pastor Jack, thank you for coming by. How can people follow and stay in touch with you?
JackHibbs.com. Super simple.
This dude is such a joke. This dude is absolutely terrible in every way. And now he's just shouting himself out. I'm not really interested in assisting his efforts in spreading his notoriety. So, yeah, I'm not going to allow him to shout himself out on my channel. But anyways, Jack Hibbs is terrible. He's terrible. He's a mega church evangelical nutcase with 10 to 15,000 people that come to his mega church every week, every Sunday. 10 to 15,000. Think about how many people that is. That's nuts. And he will do anything he can to convince him they're persecuted and convince him that they need to get more Jesus in government, because if he can do that, then they can take over what they believe to be their birthright. Absolutely insane. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. This dude's crazy.